Hi, Diane Davidson here from the Fine Homes Group at Keller Williams, here with my partner and husband, Bill Weidecker. And Bill, you had an understudy last week, and Nicole Quinn sat in for you. We really just talked about what we're seeing in the market and, where we think things are going, where they've been. So it seems like that's just a timely subject every week because there's so much change going on, or perceived change, right? So I'd love to get you to weigh in on that because I did last week. What are you seeing?
Well, I think it's, you know what it is? It's you said the word perceived change. And it's people's perception always drives how consumers feel, drives how the market is, and whether or not we're going to tip into a recession is yet to be determined. I was having this conversation with another one of our agents, and when you think about a recession, it's this. It's 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. Mm-hmm. So when do you know that there's a recession? When you're in the 7th month.
8 months late, yeah.
Yeah.
When the baby's about ready to be born. Right?
Well, so the question really comes down to this, is I feel like the Federal Reserve, Jerome Powell is already saying, we're committed to keeping a lid on this as best we can. They had an interest rate increase of 0.75% last week. His testimony at Capitol Hill yesterday has said that he's committed to keeping this under control and not ruling out more interest rate increases. I think we're going to see another 75 basis point increase in the discount rate. That's 75 basis points is 0.75%. And while the discount rate doesn't have an effect directly on mortgage rates, the discount rate has an effect on the 10-year Treasury rate, which definitely has a correlation to mortgage rates. So I think we've seen mortgage rates kick up to just over 6% this past week. They've moved back off that a little bit, about 0.1%, not a big number. So, 6 is about where we are, and we were in the high 2s a year ago.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the workarounds we're seeing?
Well, what a good question. It's almost as if you anticipated this.
I was waiting to ask, hoping I would forget.
Well, some of the workarounds are really this. What are buyers' choices? If interest rates, the cost of money is more expensive, they either pay more per month or they buy less house and pay the same amount that they would have paid, like shop in a lesser price range. Or they start to look at alternative financing, i.e., adjustable rate mortgages are beginning to curry some favor again. Now, it's not the adjustable rate mortgages that the buyers of today's grandparents looked at in the 1980s or the 1990s. It's because those were 1-year adjustable rate mortgages, 3-year adjustable rate mortgages, and they were really going up quite rapidly. These are a lot different, and so they're 5-year fixed rates, 7-year fixed rates, so that the buyer can get into a home at a lesser rate today than the current fixed rate, 30-year fixed rate market. That was the 30-year fixed mortgages were the predominant product for the last 10, 12 years. And people 10 years ago, 12 years ago, were getting in at 6%, 7% fixed rate mortgages. And as the market was adjusting downward, they were refinancing not just once, but all along
Many
the way.
times. Yeah.
So, there's a saying in the mortgage business, marry the price and date the rate. So I think we're going to get a little bit of that now, where people get into a mortgage product that they like for today, and if they get a favorable interest rate that they can convert it to, they're going to consider that. Affordability is becoming an issue, and then this is what happens with buyers when they start to realize prices have continued to increase, rates have continued to increase. They start to look at alternatives. The next move after that will be a stall in prices for sellers. You just can't have the affordability index keep dropping and dropping and dropping without buyers not being able to buy.
Right. And I think we're seeing it in certain segments of the market more than others. I think entry level a little bit more than sort of mid-range and upper range.
No doubt about it.
But I think about for many years when we first started selling, when you heard the rate, the 30-year fixed rate, it was always with 2 points. It was unspoken, it was with 2 points. So if you were borrowing $100,000, 1 point being 1% of the loan amount, it was, 7%, well, 17% when I started, but 17% plus 2 points, right? And so it would cost you the origination fee of $2,000 on top of what you're paying monthly. So one of the other options is buying the rate down, which happened a lot in the 80s, where for a percentage of the loan amount, you bought the rate down 0.25%, 0.5%. And we're seeing some areas. I was on a call, the webinar today that you're going to be on, leader for company partner, anyway, with Gary Keller, and they were talking. There's some areas of the country where that's happening predominantly. Most properties are financed with mortgages that are being bought down by the sellers. So rather than a price reduction, the properties are selling kind of at the same level they were, but the sellers are taking that money and putting it toward buying rate down for the buyer. So the payment that they're dating is a payment that's it's still a 30-year fixed. So that's another alternative that we're seeing. Not so much here, because I do have to say that Realtor.com ranked Manchester-Nashua area as the #1 hottest market in the country.
That's correct.
So I do think we're a little bit insulated. I mean, and it's not going to be forever, and we've been #1 before. We've been in the top 5 several times. So I think we're seeing, based on being on this call, there are almost 400 agents, and we're seeing a different market than a lot of people are seeing.
Sure.
The other thing I noticed is there are a lot of markets where investors are buying up properties and renting them out. Like 30% of the market. Are the investors, instead of the stock market, basically. So I think we've just been pretty lucky in our area that our market is a little more normalized and civilized than many others, not fraught with as many issues.
Yeah, on the top 20 markets, Concord, New Hampshire came in at #4. Yep. So you've got Manchester, Nashua at #1, and Concord at #4.
Yes.
It's really all of the southern tier.
Yeah. Great.
And I think that's good news for sellers in this market. It's good news for buyers because typically in the real estate business, crowds make good decisions, right?
Yep.
They tend to make good decisions, and people buying in mass in this market, mass meaning large numbers, not Massachusetts. Is good for us. It's good for property owners in the state, and it's good for buyers moving into the state.
Well, again, you go back to perception. People read that and they think, "Let me buy there. Let me move there."
Yeah,
People
there must be a
anyway.
reason.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's that's a nice little boost for our local market.
And for the first time in my recent memory, in those top markets, there's always been somewhere in California there's been one of the markets. None in California. Yeah, very telling.
Oh, come in this way.
Well. We don't want them all, but we want some. So I think the market is really the market of the moment. Is like what's going on right now, and we've started to see price adjustments starting to increase ever so slightly. And the next metric to look at, if you're a property owner thinking of selling, is what's happening to days on market. So if the days on market are 21 days. And they go from 21 days to 28 days, you think, well, that's only 7 more days. What's the big deal? Well, so it's you go, wow, that's a 33% increase in days on market.
Yes.
That's an impact, and it's an impact worth paying attention to, because typically when you see your days on market start to creep up, they're creeping for a reason, and inventory will start to build. And we look at these things every single day, and people think every single day, really? It's our job.
Yes, exactly.
It's what we do, and we do. But it gives us a real good pulse. And so, also, markets are local, really local.
Hyper.
Yeah. So it comes down to, if you're a buyer, what's going on not only in southern New Hampshire, what's going on in the town or the city you're looking in, what's going on in the neighborhood or the zip code you're looking at.
And the price band that you're looking at, because it can be very different even in the same zip code.
That's right.
So it's good we look. Something to talk about at the dinner table too. the numbers that we look at every single day.
No, we're not doing that. What's the dinner table?
Yeah, it is. Which restaurant is that?
Yeah.
Okay, so anything else that you're observing? So I just wanted to, what you said, you kind of said it quickly, and there was increase in, but what you said is that there's an increase in price reductions, increase in
Yes.
price
Yeah,
decreases.
so there's more and more sellers that have picked the wrong price with, in some cases, with the assistance of their realtor, to be ambitious and then realizing quickly, there's nobody wanting to buy it at this price.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's important to know that when you put your home on the market as a property owner, you are making the first offer.
Mm-hmm.
You are making an offer to the world. Here it is. Here's my price. Anyone want to buy it?
You're taking the action to which
Right.
you expect a reaction. The reaction is either something or nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that is no
Nothing
offers is
is-
a reaction.
absolutely.
It's a definite reaction to what
It's
you're
not
offering.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe next week we'll sort of talk about this again a little bit, a little
Well,
catch up, see what
yeah.
happens.
The thing is that oftentimes talking in generalities when it comes to the real estate business is helpful to the average consumer because they're getting a sense of where things are going. It's when you start drilling down hard on numbers, we could spend an hour and throwing out hundreds of different figures and people's heads would start to spin. So I think the general sense is here's where things are based on what we see. And then if people have a real desire to know specifically, we can always drill down
Mm-hmm.
in their price band, in their neighborhood, in their town, whether they're buyers or sellers, for sure.
Yeah. So I think it's created lots of opportunities for buyers too, because there seems to be less competition sometimes, right?
Mhm.
And so it's still, and the other thing I think about, with buyers, so some have had to adjust the price, what they're looking for, but we've heard other agents talk about their buyers sort of having fatigue and wanting to stop looking, but all of these things, all of these buyers not looking and things maybe slowing down a bit is going to cause rental prices to go up. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, rental prices have continued to go up.
Right.
And if you do move into a property of your own and you secure, whether it's a 5-year fixed rate or a 30-year fixed rate mortgage or a 7-year fixed rate mortgage, it's fixed.
Right.
And so your monthly principal and interest payment is going to be fixed for that period of time. We know this about rentals. It's the market. It's wherever the market goes. And so the rental market has gone steadily up and up and up. At least if you lock in a payment on a mortgage, your payment's going to be fixed there.
Correct.
Principal and interest
Yeah.
anyway.
And no one's storing. And the other thing is you can be evicted. I mean, you can have a lease that's not
Sure.
renewed.
Sure.
And that's you have so much more control over your destiny when you're buying a home.
And you can do things with your own property that you can't do
Add
with an
equity.
apartment. Yep.
Right. Right.
So all in all, I've always held out that it's, renting a property is not what people want to do. They're doing it because they either can't buy or they don't believe they can buy.
Mm-hmm.
I've used this is a little bit of a tongue in cheek, but there's never been anybody that's emigrated to this country that has said, I just can't wait till I get my hands on a rental.
For the rest of my life.
Yeah. They want a piece of
Mm-hmm.
the American dream, and
Mm-hmm.
it's that for a reason. It's not, and that dream, by the way, has not gone away. We're finding that the millennials that are now coming of age are buying properties. They are the number one buying block out there right now for residential real estate
Mhm.
for a reason. What many people said. I wonder if they're going to have the same desire to own that we had. They might desire to own something a little different than what we bought, but they have a desire to own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think they came to it a little bit later, rather
Yeah.
than their early 20s or mid 20s. I
Yeah.
think that's why we all were wondering. But they were busy sort of doing other things, if
Well,
you will.
Let's think of it this way: they're having children later, they're getting married later. Why would that form follows function?
Trendsetter.
You are.
Trendsetter.
Yeah, you are.
They
a
still haven't caught
trendsetter.
up to me though.
I don't know that they
Not
ever
having
will.
their kids. No,
Yeah.
I forget.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's it. We covered enough.
Thankfully.
So see you next week. That's it for today.
Oh, well, I'll see you later. We'll see
Right.
you next week.
Correct.
Yeah.
By the way, every week I do record and post ISOs for our buyer clients, and we've been very successful in finding off-market opportunities. So if you can help us out with that, please be sure to watch those videos.
What is ISO?
In search of.
Oh,
The millennials know what that is,
okay.
and all the other little acronyms.
The kids today.
The kids today, those darn kids. So, thanks for joining us today. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel or follow us on your favorite podcast platform.